This is a follow-up to my last video where I tore up some jam car bodies. And they were all the yellow jam car with the jam car logo on the side, and they had lights and a siren thing on top. And I had cut them out, and I whittled that area out and turned it into sunroof. So came out okay. I'm not pleased with that paint that I used. It did want to kind of orange peel or get fuzzy sometimes, and I wouldn't advise it. That particular paint, which was the not Fusion, it was the 2X cover paint. I believe it's made by Rust-Oleum. I've used it on a lot of plastic before, but something with fine detail, it just gets too thick. So wouldn't advise that one, but it just came out good enough to be a little runner car. And it's not that ugly jam car anymore. And I put a couple coats of this Tamiya clear lacquer on top. And this stuff's really good, especially if you're putting decals or something on. You can put that on top. But the second one, I used this paint right here, which is Tamiya. It's made for plastic models and stuff. You get it in hobby shops. It's about $8 a can or whatever. But the coverage on it is much better. But of course now this is a dark color. I was going white on top of yellow there, and white's hard to cover up the darker colors, so it had to have more coats. This one, it took up color real quick. You could still see some of the defects where I filled it in with the Tamiya putty. Probably should have did at least, I don't know, 3 or 4 more coats. I could have probably made that virtually invisible, but I was having to put it on thin, let it dry, sand it, and repeat. Now, probably 5 or 6 more coats of that Tamiya, but it was pretty much a test deal to see how that goes. But I managed to turn it into a Fox body hardtop, which I don't believe Tyco ever made Fox body hardtop. I could be wrong, but I've never seen it. I know they made the sunroof models. I've seen plenty of them in the book. Never seen one in person. But so now this time I'm gonna take the actual chassis from those same jam cars and turn them into a slot car. And it isn't that difficult. You don't need too many tools. You just need a pair of, I like to use flush cutting snips, some small drill bits, and what I use is pin vise, which is like an old hand brace, but it's kind of like the collet on a Dremel. But I bought 2 different ones, one at Hobby Lobby, and I don't remember which one I got where, and one at Hobby Town. I believe this one came from Hobby Town because it came with some drill bits, and it has a reversible collet in there. But like I said, I'm not sure. It seems to be higher quality. This one was like $9. This one was $7.95, I believe, at Hobby Town. But they're both good. But you want to use them when you're drilling a tiny hole. You don't want to use a drill motor because you might drill through something that you don't want to. So that's what we're using. And the way I sized up the drill bits I want to use, I intend to salvage this guide pin from an old Tyco chassis I have here. And I believe that's a hopper guide pin, but they're the same dimension, but they happen to be gold. I don't know why. So you get the drill bit that will just fit in there, and then you know that's your finished drill bit, that where the actual channel for it to snap in is. And so I'm going to drill a hole, and then I'm going to try to make that same keyhole pattern on the plastic. But before you do that, first thing you want to do is we got to get this wire guide. The way them jam cars work, they have contacts with all three rails, so they'll always go no matter which, whether you switch the voltage on it or the polarity or whatever. They got some diodes on them, this little motherboard thing here. Looks like at least 2, there might be 4, but they just maintain the same polarity to the drive motor, which is a worm gear drive actually on this. So obviously it's not going to be real high speed, but it'll have good torque, I would imagine. The front wheels are just basically snapped on to the chassis. The back axle is removable, but there wouldn't be much you could do with it. I don't think it's worth trying to convert it into anything else. But like I said, I used to get these jam cars pretty cheap, new in the package. But I haven't bought any in a long time, and I hadn't really shopped for any. But so what we're going to do, we got to get them pickup shoes off so we don't ruin them. Come off pretty easy. They just got a little, they don't have a spring, they got a little tang on them, as you can see right there. Where is it? Yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but you can see this little tang that provides the tension, the spring tension, to keep it moving away. They're all made out of copper. So I would think they'll hold up okay. But those shoes remind me of a long version of a HP7 pickup shoe. They got those tangs on there too, so there's no spring to lose. And when we won't need this middle one anymore. So we'll have an extra pickup shoe. And now that you've removed that, you see the areas where they hook in. Pretty simple. Then we're going to take this guide wire device out of here that kept it along the wall. Little S hook. We won't be needing that anymore. So now we're down to the good part. You can see right here, the edge of that board, there's a built-up area. It's kind of thicker plastic. On this side, that wall ends right here where these little 3 squares are, where the tip of the pickup shoes go through to keep them, they retain the pickup shoes. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to drill a hole right about there, just behind that front square. Don't want to go too far back, but you got to go back a little ways. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to take this pin vise, start me a little hole. Might be a little bit off right there, I'm not sure. Got me a little hole is starting now. So it went through. I can see you don't want to push down real hard once you go through, because you'll go run right up into where that circuit board is, and where the drill is meeting up with the board right now is right at the junction of them 2 diodes. I don't know if you can see it moving in there. So now I'll back it out. So I got a tiny hole. Now I want the drill that I sized up for the keyhole notch in the chassis. Take that. Now when you're doing this one, you want to be a little more careful, because that drill has a bigger bite. So once it goes through, it's gonna want to leap forward in a big jump. Another reason you don't want to use a drill motor of any sort. And it's getting tight quick because of that. See, I went through really quick, and when I went through, well, let me hit it again. You can see the edge of my drill bit right there. And if I twist it anymore, it's pushing up on that board. You see that? So you want to be careful not to damage that board. But we have a little hole there. Clean it up a little with the edge of this X-Acto knife. So there is the base hole. So still try to clean a little bit more. Like I said, just be careful you don't run up into clean it up a little bit more here. And now we're going to cut through that plastic. So you get to the side of that hole. This part's a little bit. Be steady and don't stab yourself is the number one thing. Guess I could have taken that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get down in there. So I'm going to take these flat snips in there and I'm going to cut a channel right where that center hole is. So I'm going to put this in between the board and try not to apply too much pressure and snip it. I'll do the same thing on the other side, approximately where the edge of the hole is. Now I should ought to be able to knock that one little piece out. Here we go. Getting close. Of course, don't always work quick when you're trying to do it and film. Just take your time. See if you can fetch that piece out of there. I got most of it out. All right, so now still got to trim it a little bit more. Get a bevel this one edge a little bit or put an angle to it. Then flip it over and do the angle in the opposite direction. If I can clean it out a little bit more. So you just got to be patient. Don't be too aggressive. If you're too aggressive with that cutter or your X-Acto, you'll take away more plastic than you want to. But right there, I can see where we almost got the channel formed. I still got a little bit of that leftover wall from that vertical wall. And some of that's going to have to be trimmed away. But right now, you can sort of see how I have a channel in there, and it's approximately the same width as the hole that I drilled, which is the right width for our guide pin. Now what I got to do now is you'll go out at an angle on either side to make that keyhole groove so that you can slide the guide pin in. But before that, we still have, you can see that channel right there, right? That's the channel that I just made. And like I said, when you're making that hole in this channel with those cutters, be real careful around this board that you don't break that. If you do, you may have to do some electronic re-engineering from the pad. It wouldn't be difficult, but a needed extra step, unneeded extra step, should I say. So right now I'm gonna cut away some of this channel around that guide pin hole that we just made. And I'm gonna use the snippers to go a little bit further down on either side. Don't need to go too far, maybe a 1/16 of an inch or so. Like I said, be as gentle as you can. And then work on cleaning it up with your X-Acto knife. But some of that channel's got to come out because it's just going to interfere with the wider part of your guide pin. The flat part that keeps it from falling out. Got a little bit out there. I'm looking not too much more, and we're going to be there. Matter of fact, looking at it, that might be close enough. Once you get close, you can always stop because you can come back and trim it up a little bit more. But now if you look at right there, you see where I chewed that wall out. That's just on the top part, a little bit wider than the groove that we made after we drilled the hole. So now we're going to go back on here and clean up. I'm going to clean one side up with this X-Acto, and don't get right at the back of the hole. Just kind of rest to get the X-Acto knife where the back of the X-Acto knife's touching, and then, you know, cut a little forward. It won't take much. There we go. That looks pretty good on that side. Got a little junk sticking up on that guide area there. But I'll show you. So if you look, you can see where I just sliced it on this side over here and went from the back and out at an angle. Not too far back at the back of the hole, just the back of the X-Acto knife in the hole. Not too deep so you don't cut into that PC board. And then we're going to trim that extra junk out of the way. Still a little bit of that mess in there. But now, that actually looks pretty good. So you can see I just made a notch, right? And I'd imagine that the guide pin is going to fit right now. So like I said, what you're avoiding doing is don't cut with the X-Acto knife anywhere in the area where your actual drilled hole is. So you're just going from the edge of the hole forward to make that keyhole. So you still got a little clipping effect, and I'll test fit it now and see how it goes. Might have to get a tool to push that in there. snug, that's for sure. A little bit crooked. I think I got, oh, I see why. I got a little bit of that leftover mess from the thick wall. We'll get that with them snippers. Maybe I'm not. That should be enough. That looks like that'll clear. Still got the keyhole looking area there. That's good. Back on. That guide pin's in there, but I didn't feel a click. Well, the last one I did, I used a Tyco actual pin. That worked a little better for me. It is in there though. Feels like I see, I'm still rubbing a little, so I'll point it out. So you can see the guide pin is in there, right? But it's pitched just a hair. You see how that's pitched? And it's pitched because of some material still left from that one wall there. So I'm gonna clean some more of that out. And see what we can do with that. I usually would have my head magnifier on. I probably should put it on before I started this, but got to keep fiddling with it, putting it on and off so you can see at a normal distance. Or there we go, we're getting closer. I can feel it. Clean out around that hole a little bit. Put it back in there. Oh yeah, that snapped in nice that time. Still looks a little torqued. But I'm wondering if it's because I used a different pin this time. Last time I used a standard Tyco pin, I think. Yeah, it was. Let me try this. Well, here's a standard Tyco pin. Well, I don't know if it's exactly standard, but it's the one I used last time I did this gig, and it seemed to work better. It's going to be a tight fit though, because of that retaining wall business. Yeah, that's definitely a better fit. So that racing hopper pin, although it works fine in a Tyco chassis with a thicker It's got a smaller diameter head on it and a smaller retaining portion from the standard Tyco pin. So in this case, the Tyco pin worked better. So now all I got to do is get rid of this big bumper area in the back, which is easy. You can see that little groove in there. I'll point it out with this groove right here. You can see it. I'm gonna cut right along there with them side snips. Once on each side, I'll probably do it. Well, got a little more flexibility than I thought. Go a little deeper. There we go. Twist that off, clean it up a little bit with a X-Acto. Don't need to be too pretty. But now, so there's the chassis modification part done. Now we just got to put these, a couple pickup shoes back in. They just hook in the back, push it forward till it pops in there. They're probably some of the easiest pickup shoes you'll do since you're not fiddling with some springs. So, there we go. You now have a TCR car that is slotted. You installed a slot pin. You could use a AFX pin, I would imagine. I didn't want to use a flag pin because those tend to have to rotate, although they do have a pointed side on them. So if you got one that was kind of loose, you could probably take the AFX, cut the flag off, stick it in there, and if it was loose, put a little glue in to hold it. You know, it's not too hard. But now, what I intend on using them on, they are the long wheelbase on here, where the here's a TCR regular car that I did a mod on. You can see where I cut it, but it has a lot more work you got to do. You got to glue the wheels in place because they usually shift back and forth when you change lanes. But those are the shorter wheelbase wide pan on some of the TCR cars. Some of them are actually thin, narrow chassis too, for F1 style or those Buick Regals or whatever. But these are a little more complicated to modify, and I don't know if they're worth it. The pickups on them are real fussy, but I got a few more to do before I make that call on whether or not. But this is a good quick modification, not too much to do, as you've seen, 20, 30 minutes. And then they fit. So this tractor body, real nice. And this tractor came with a 440X2 chassis that I intend to use on something else. The only thing, I'm going to still have to solder me a light bulb on there because the tractors are lighted. So if you want them to still be lighted, you can add a light bulb to this TCR chassis fairly easy. Matter of fact, you just solder right there where these two bulk leads are. That's feedback to the, yeah, that's the motor contacts right there. So you would just solder your bulb on either one of those. But yeah, there we go. I mean, not too bad. Like I said, I had done one before. That's the one I just pulled this pin off of for, because what did I do with that other pin? Oh, goodness. That's why you want a little mat like this so you don't lose things, and you'll still lose them anyway. But anyway, I put one of these on a Jeep because these ain't really something you're wrestling. So more like a 4-wheel drive system. So higher torque, lower speed. They'll go at a pretty good clip, but those pickups work really well. So there we go. That's how we modify a TCR Jam car chassis to be a regular slot car. And I may even, no, I can't use them on these, yeah, I can use them on these bodies. They're the long wheelbase, but they won't run that quick. So I'm gonna use something else with them bodies. So, all right, y'all.